was like, am I a man? Like it was like that. It was crazy.
Oh my gosh. Dude, being a woman is just such a war forever. Yeah.
And that's what she said. And that's what she said in the interview. The Variety article opens up by her saying, being a woman is just such a war forever, especially being a young woman in the public eye. It's really unfair. And she's way more in the public eye than I ever was and ever will be. I'll never be an A-list celebrity. I don't really want to be.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Undoctrination. I'm Maggie.
And I'm Olivia.
And this week we've got some like Christmassy vibes going on. I'm in my green. Olivia's in her plaid red shirt. It's very cute, very cozy.
Thank
Olivia,
you.
how are you doing?
This is unplanned. Yeah, I'm good. Had a busy day, but we're here. We're here to spread the good word of Undoctrination. And yeah, I think we have a good topic for today. It's kind of a little bit maybe not our normal topic, but we used to talk about gender wars and dating and femininity and stuff a lot on here. So I think it's good that we're bringing it back a little bit because of this interesting interview that you kind of pointed out to me the other day.
Yeah. So today we're getting undoctrinated with Billie Eilish. She was recently interviewed by Variety magazine, and both Olivia and I can attest to the fact that Billie Eilish was kind of this huge cultural moment for us and for women in our age group in general. Because when Billie Eilish came onto the scene, she had these really like whispery vocals that were very ethereal and beautiful, but she was often singing about really dark subject matter. She had like crazy colored hair and would wear these super baggy clothes and was kind of pushing back against this norm in Hollywood and in LA for women in the music industry to wear really skimpy clothes on stage. And she was a teenager, so it was really good. Like it was good for the industry to not sexualize her so young. And she kind of kept that up as she kept growing up. And so this interview, it's called Billie Eilish Was Made for This. Being a woman is just such a war forever. I love the title because so true, so true. And I don't mean that in the typical feminist sense. I just mean that in probably the way Billie Eilish means it, and that it's really hard to figure out who you are in a culture that is constantly pulling you in a million different directions, and expecting you to be someone in a million different ways that are all contradicting all the time. It is really hard to figure out who you are throughout all of that. And I was telling Olivia about this article after I read it, and Olivia was just like, wow, I relate so much to Billie. So I figured we could come on here and talk about it. But Olivia, I know you're a huge Billie stan. So when did you...
Yeah, I think people don't really expect that of me because I don't really enjoy most pop music, or I should say modern pop music. So she's really the only quote unquote pop star I really do enjoy and I do follow. And part of that is because we're the same age. I think she's like 11 months younger than me or something, not quite a year. And she became famous when she was about 16, 17. And not to say that I'm any close at all to the fame that Billie Eilish has, but during that time, that's when I became, I guess, a little bit locally known for wrestling. This was before I was into politics.
Girl, you're famous.
Before I was public.
Don't worry about it.
Anyway, so around that time, I had a Washington Post article published about me wrestling, and that was I was on the local news. I was on like local ABC, whatever DC channel news it was. And I guess that was the most famous I had been at the time, and I was feeling a lot of pressure. And I really, really loved this girl who dressed like a tomboy, because I was a tomboy, who dressed in these baggy shorts and sweaters and hoodies exactly how I dressed. And she was just making music that was relatable for me as an angsty teenager. And then she grew up, and so now we're both in our early 20s. And I feel like her brand has stayed pretty true to herself. I mean, she definitely got a lot more famous. At the time, she had under 1 million Instagram followers when I first followed her. Now she has, I think, almost maybe 100 million. I think the last time I checked, it was like in the 80s or something like that.
She's so crazy popular.
She's crazy famous now, but that was the reason that initially, I guess, it drew me to her. And then when you sent me this Variety interview, this article that she did, and she said all this stuff about one quote that really resonated with me is, I've never felt like a woman, to be honest with you. I've never felt desirable. I've never felt feminine. I have to convince myself that I'm a pretty girl. I identify as she, her, and things like that, but I've never really felt like a girl. And to the untrained, conservative leaning man, and probably most men in general, they probably take that as, what is she saying? She's non-binary, she's trans, she's not a female, she identifies as something else. And to me, I took that as something very real that I experienced myself during my middle school and high school years of just feeling undesirable, feeling like I didn't fit into the pretty girl stereotype. I feel like I've always had a unique look, but back then I was definitely considered more of an ugly duckling. You know, I was definitely just not going through puberty well. I was just not cute. Okay. So I really felt like that. And this surprises people. And I think it surprised you, Maggie, a little bit when I said this, but even, I mean, as recently as, I mean, sometimes these thoughts still struggle like in my head, but as recently as like high school and college, if I was being talked about in the third person, especially by a male, like the member of the opposite sex, and they say she or her referring to me, it felt so crazy. Like, I can't believe somebody views me as a woman because I don't feel feminine at all.
Now, Olivia, do you think that comes from a place of struggling with your gender identity and not actually being a woman? Or do you think it comes from a place of questioning how society perceives you and feeling like you can't live up to a lot of the expectations placed on women?
Definitely the latter, because I was talking to my boyfriend about the topic that we were going to do, and I was trying to explain that feeling. And he goes, so you're saying in middle school you felt like you were non-binary? I was like, no, I had no idea what that was outside of like what was being said on Tumblr, but I never internalized that feeling or really understood it, you know, as being transgender. I just really felt like I'm a tomboy. I don't feel very womanly. I feel really ugly. I had hit puberty faster than a lot of the other girls. So I was tall. I had like wide hips. I like got my period and everything. Sorry for the TMI guys, but this was just my reality at the time. And so when boys especially would, you know, say something that reminded me like, oh, they think they know I'm a girl, I would just be shocked, because not to be like, I'm not like those other girls. I hate those type of girls, by the way. But I just have been in primarily male friend groups because of wrestling and politics. So I've always been treated as like one of the guys. So that also kind of compounded that feeling, because even I have like a couple straight male friends who have never hit on me. Like, it's never been weird like that, who I hold really dear to my heart, because those guys are rare, right? They're not just like waiting to get out of the friend zone. Yeah, they're the real ones. But the reason that we're friends and the reason that they've never hit on me or anything is like, I just view you as one of the guys. And, you know, that comes with pros and cons, because to me, I had genuine friends as a kid and as a teenager, but I also was like, it just felt so weird to be referred to with female pronouns. And it sounds like I'm saying I had gender dysphoria, but I absolutely did not. I did not want to have, you know, the opposite parts or opposite body, you know, belonging to the opposite sex. But it just felt weird to be referred to as a woman because I felt unfeminine. And I still do kind of struggle with that, even though I wouldn't consider myself a tomboy anymore. But I feel like, you know, this was also at a time where I was in denial about my sexuality as well. So I was having like gay thoughts and feelings. And I was like, and I was like,
what does this mean?
I was like, am I a man? Like, it was like that. It was crazy.
Oh my gosh. Dude, being a woman is just such a war forever. Yeah.
And that's what she said. And that's what she said in the interview. The Variety article opens up by her saying, being a woman is just such a war forever, especially being a young woman in the public eye. It's really unfair. And she's way more in the public eye than I ever was and ever will be. I'll never be an A-list celebrity. I don't really want to be.
You guys.
Stuff like this, but...
Olivia is an A-list celebrity in my eyes because my grandpa sent me an article yesterday and was like, your friend is killing it. She's in Breitbart. And it was an Olivia article. I was like, aw, that's so sweet.
Thank you, Grandpa Maggie. Thank you.
But not to commit like tomboy stolen valor, I somewhat relate to your feelings. I don't know if it's believable that I used to feel that way because I am a very feminine person, I feel like. Although I do have very masculine parts. Like I'm very outspoken. I'm assertive. You know, I don't struggle with being too agreeable. I tell people what I'm thinking in a nice way, of course. But when I was growing up, I grew up in the country. And so the majority of my activities were outside in dirt piles, like out in the woods. You know, I was very much a tomboy growing up, and I was very awkward as a tween and as a teenager. Very, very awkward. And there's this period of life that every woman goes through, puberty, where suddenly you're no longer just kids, right? Like you can have friend groups. It's all just kids. Like you don't really care if it's boys and girls. That ends at puberty because you start like the boys start to see you differently and they start to treat you differently. And that's really disorienting for women and young girls. Like that transition out of just being a kid who's just like having fun and enjoying life, the transition into becoming like a person that boys want to date and all of that stuff can be really disorienting. And you don't feel like that person yet. And you see all of these celebrities. And in Billie Eilish's case, I mean, gosh, she must have been seeing these female celebrities that she was looking up to on stage in leotards, showing everything off to the entire world and thinking, I'm not like that. Like that doesn't feel comfortable to me. And for me, at least up until maybe 16, I really struggled with those kinds of feelings. Like I totally get the whole like I didn't feel desirable. That was a big struggle for me when I was growing up. And I had moments where I was like, oh, like I wouldn't want people to see me this way. You know, I was very like nervous and shy around boys. I was in a musical 2 years in a row where I was the lead and I had a male lead counterpart and I refused to kiss him, even though it was built into the script because I was just so uncomfortable.
Pure. So pure, Maggie.
No, it's not that. It's not that it was like a purity thing. I was super, super uncomfortable. Like my mom thought something was wrong with me. That's how uncomfortable I was.
Oh, dang.
And that changed eventually. Like maybe I was just a late bloomer. But I think most girls struggle with those feelings and that transition period. And I think nowadays, instead of just, okay, this is like an awkward transition period where everyone's going through different things at the same age and, you know, things change year by year for each kid. I think now teenagers are going online and those feelings of discomfort and not feeling like a woman are now being pathologized. And under gender ideology, young women are being told, maybe you're not a woman. Ever thought of that? Maybe you can just get rid of this label altogether. And you know what? That probably seems really attractive to teenage girls who don't want to be viewed in the way we view women and the way we treat women in society, which, not to sound like feminist, but we do kind of sexualize women a lot.
There's something to be said for that. There absolutely is. And especially for girls like me who at the time I was in denial. I later came out as bi, but anyone who was just like the least bit, I guess, gender nonconforming, like let's say you're not completely straight or you're just kind of a tomboy, I can see how that idea to be non-binary or transmasculine or just to transition fully into a boy, I can see how that would be attractive. Now, we had talked about this, I believe, when Sarah Higdon was on, about how trans people, the majority of transsexuals used to be males, gay males transitioning to women, essentially. Now, a lot of it is otherwise completely normal, I hate to say normal and heterosexual, but, you know, it is normal to be straight, right? Completely normal heterosexual teen girls feeling uncomfortable in their bodies and now identifying as non-binary or boys. So I definitely can see how it's even worse now, because at the time when I was in middle school, like that was barely a thing. But another thing that Billie said that was interesting, which I know we both had some thoughts over, but she also got people fired up when she said, nobody ever says a thing about men's bodies. If you're muscular, cool. If you're not, cool. If you're real thin, cool. If you have a dad bod, cool. If you're pudgy, love it. Everybody's happy with it. You know why? Because girls are nice. They don't give a F because we see people for who they are. Now,
I don't know if that's why.
I have a couple thoughts.
Yeah.
I think girls are nice. We're not super nice to each other. I think we are nicer to, I think sometimes we're nicer to men than they are to us, but that's just my personal experience. But
period.
I think here's where I find truth in her statement. Men are not criticized for things like weight as much as women.
Yeah. Maybe you get a little criticism, but it's definitely not as much.
Not as much, and there definitely is more grace. I mean, we call them dad bods when they're not the one that gave birth. There's certain things that they didn't, get fatter from carrying a baby in their body.
From beer.
So there are little cute little sayings like that. But then again, women do constantly make fun of men for their height, for the size of their thing downstairs, neither of which you can change. And both, I think, are considered body shaming.
I think that's body shaming. I was writing a video script and then I was like, no, like, I don't know if I have enough to say here, but I do have enough to say on the podcast about this. The short kings would like a word, Billie, because short men are regularly like talked down about among women all the time. Like women tend to set the heights on their dating apps to 6 feet tall. And
it filters out everybody else.
Listen, I have made a lot of excuses for women in this department because I don't care that much about height. I'm 5'8", and it hasn't really mattered to me if men are over 6 feet tall. Like that doesn't matter that much to me. Maybe it's because I'm a tall girl, so I understand height discrimination because men generally like shorter women. But it hasn't really mattered that much to me. I probably wouldn't date someone significantly shorter than me, but my height is fine. But I know women that are like 5'2", and they're like, nope, 5'8", not having it. 5'6", not having it. And it's like, come on.
I have yet to meet a woman like that. I know they're out there, and I know they exist, but out of my female friends who have a large array of men that they prefer or like to date, I've never once met a friend and we've had a discussion about their height preference and they had a hard cutoff at like minimum 6 feet. I've met a lot who they can't be shorter. They can't be the same height. They have to be a little bit taller. I do have a friend who's about 5'10", and she grew up always telling me, like we grew up together, like we were like 10. She always told me she had a minimum of 6 feet because she grew up, and we were tall as kids too. So she was like 5'3" when we were like 8. So it was always a thing for her to like have a boyfriend or a husband that's like 6 feet tall. Dude, she gets her first boyfriend. She goes up to college. He's like 5'9". She's an inch taller than him. Like I just never met somebody with a hard stance like that. But on the dating apps, it is a different story because on the dating apps, if you had to choose, you have your ideal
options.
man.
Yeah.
It gives you that, I guess it's like a facade. It gives you that fakeness that you have endless options. So if you have the option to filter out anybody who's not tall, then a lot of girls will take it. How would you feel if they filtered it by cup size or the number on the scale?
I would be so triggered.
People would be, people would be triggered.
I would be really triggered. And, it's really funny when women say like 6 feet tall or bust. Cause like when they finally get a boyfriend, they're not 6 feet tall. That's just like something women like to say.
It's so unrealistic.
It's like a group dynamics thing. Like you say it as like, I'm fitting in with this social crowd. It's like a social signal. It's the same reason why on those videos that are like man on the street and they're like, how much does a man have to make in order for you to be with him? And they're like
$300,000.
$500,000, nothing less than $500,000. They don't actually mean $500,000. They're just saying that. They're just like words are just coming out of their mouth. And I know that's hard to believe, but women, we tend to do that.
The little drunk friends in the background are like, yeah, girl.
Yes.
Yeah, girl. And then, of course, these get circulated, and then the girls get invited on the whatever podcast. And then, you know, it just gets painted as this thing of, oh my God, all women want a guy that makes
so
$500,000.
Judgmental. And it's like,
dude,
no, if you meet them in real life, like, they don't care, okay?
Your dating pool should not be limited to the drunk girls stumbling around the street that agreed to an interview on a Saturday night. That should not be your dating pool.
Did you see the one where she was like, I just want McDonald's. Like, stop asking me questions.
Okay, that would be me. No, I haven't seen that one. I did see another girl said $1,000, and the guy was like, per year. She said per day. $1,000 per day. I was like, nobody measures money like that, girl. Nobody measures money like that, girl. So yeah.
Yeah, but I do think that Billie Eilish does have a point when she says that men's bodies aren't criticized in the same way as women's. A lot of men tend to think, or at least online, I'm not going to say a lot of men in general, but at least online, especially in like your incel spheres, sorry to say their name. It's like Voldemort. You shouldn't
They're
say
gonna
it.
come.
They're going to come.
They're going to come.
Here they come in hordes into the comments. Manosphere, also shouldn't say that word. Those circles
guys.
like to say that women are like very picky and judgmental about physical types.
They're projecting.
No, we are not. That is a projection. That is how men like scrutinize women and select for dating partners. It's much more important in a romantic relationship for the woman to be more attractive for the man. For women, our attraction is so based off of personality and charm and how safe you make us feel. And do we think you're going to be a good dad? Like, if we think you're going to be a good dad, that's like, it's over.
Dude, you could be so ugly but you could just be playing with like a puppy or a baby or something, and girls
you crack
would be
a
like,
joke that makes women laugh, and it's like it's over. Yeah,
girls will lose their mind.
Why
dude.
do you think fat funny guys? Not to talk about the stereotype, but the fat funny guy can pull any woman he wants.
They always have girlfriends.
Me about Jelly Roll. Who is
my
this man?
mom loves Jelly Roll, dude. Okay, this is a demographic I see praising them the most because I just figured out who Jelly Roll is. He seems like a really talented singer. I think he got awarded at like the Country Music Festival or awards or whatever, but he's a really large guy, really large guy, tattoos, beard. He doesn't look like this clean cut 6 foot guy who's making millions of dollars. Of course he is rich, but when he met his now wife, I did watch this interview and he was telling me about all this kind of crazy stuff he was into. He was, I believe, an addict. His wife had to forgive him. His wife is like a gorgeous, perfectly skinny blonde model,
blonde
bombshell
lady. Yeah.
Bombshell. And a lot of these ladies prefer the personality. And, you know, there are certain things like a lot of guys will criticize ladies for going for guys that can provide them a certain lifestyle. I'm not saying that women cannot be just as superficial as men, but it's for other reasons.
It's true.
Definitely. It's for lifestyle reasons and financial reasons like we just talked about. I just don't think it's as pronounced as like every woman wants a millionaire or thinks that they can land a millionaire.
Yeah. But I mean, back to what Billie Eilish is talking about for female beauty standards, she is I think what she's really trying to say is that it is really tough to be a woman in the public eye in terms of your physical appearance. I don't think we scrutinize male celebrities as much. I mean, Tom Cruise is short, right? Joe Rogan, I think, is 5'6", maybe. But like, you don't see people talking about their height all the time, right? But as far as female celebrities go, your body is under so much scrutiny and it's expected to change like every 5 to 10 years with the trends. Hi, Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian used to be—
We can thank them for a lot of that stuff.
You know, very voluptuous. She has been dropping weight. They're all on Ozempic. You know, all the Kardashians are now skinny queens, skinny thick, you know, whatever they're calling it. But like the body standard has changed again, and female celebrities are absolutely expected to live up to those standards. You see so many female rappers getting BBLs. Like I've noticed that's a huge
and it's
trend.
encouraging people who, one, can't afford to get a $10,000 or $20,000 surgery. And also, two, it's encouraging really poor lifestyle habits because, you know, what these celebrities don't tell you is they achieve their look by having a personal trainer, personal chef, meal planner, and then they get the BBL. And so they're able to maintain it. If you don't do any of that and you just get a surgery, you'll mess up your body even further because you have this, basically what it is a fat transfer from your stomach to your hips and your butt. And if you don't keep up with the diet and exercise, it's just going to look crazy.
Yeah.
And you can also die on the table. It's one of the riskiest cosmetic surgeries that are out there. But of course, you know, the Kardashians and people who are getting these surgeries and acting like they got it naturally, they don't really care about the results and they don't really care how they harm people. But I will also say, as a woman who's in the public eye, I just don't want to say that because it just sounds like I'm comparing myself to Billie Eilish. But I will say that, you know, I'm frequently on TV. I used to be in studio to go on TV a lot. And, you know, this is not to insult anyone I've appeared on television with. It was just like, you can just tell that, I mean, in terms of like the makeup artists even running around, they're touching up the women way more than they're touching up the man. A man can go on there, you know, put on a nice shirt, tie, and suit and just, you know, run his fingers through his hair. And that's all he has to do to be presentable. I'm not saying that women have to wear makeup to be presentable, but that's what we
do. I mean, I think about this with work.
I mean,
right?
The one time that I like didn't even on the news, I wore fake eyelashes. I'm pretty sure every time except for one time. And one time I didn't wear fake eyelashes on Fox Business. And people were like, you look sickly. And so it's like, and sometimes I wear them on here, but it's more of a stylistic choice.
Yes, but you have freedom on Undoctrination.
I have freedom here. But if I wore less makeup on Fox, people would like immediately notice. But if I wore too much, then people would call me like a tramp and say I look like a prostitute. It was just hard to figure out like the middle ground.
And I mean, this show and the shorts that I film, the YouTube shorts, have been really my first time on camera, but I have become way more intense and focused on what I look like when I do get on camera. Like it is like a whole thing. I'm in a green room right over there. This is not my house. We're at a studio. I'm in a green room right over there. And I spend an hour just like very intensely putting on eyeliner and doing all of those things. But it is something I enjoy doing, but there is an expectation. Like if I went into the workplace with no makeup on my face, I would feel unpresentable. And that's not necessarily men doing that to us. That's just how our society functions in general right now. But with Billie Eilish, she probably wears makeup and everything, but her style is really unconventional. She used to never wear makeup.
Yeah, she used to never wear makeup growing up, but now she does.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Her style is so unconventional though, and she covered her body, like really covered her body. And that was a choice she made. And she said something about it. She said, I wasn't trying to have people not sexualize me, but I didn't want people to have access to my body, even visually. I wasn't strong enough and secure enough to show it. If I had shown it at the time, I would have been completely devastated if people had said anything. And they would have said something because the minute they caught her in the streets in a tank top and found out that she has curves, it was a whole news story, a whole news cycle, you know, and, you know, it's just crazy that this girl who became known not for her body and not for her physical appearance has now become a major thing that people talk about when it comes to Billie Eilish. But yeah, I love this interview, you guys. I think she did such an excellent job being vulnerable and open. And that's kind of the whole allure to Billie Eilish as well, is that she's just very vulnerable in all of the songs that she writes. She used to do this interview every single year and and she would answer the same questions each year to kind of give updates about her life. One other thing I wanted to point out is that she has opened up about not feeling comfortable around other girls, and that writing that song for the end of the Barbie movie like really changed her perspective on a lot of things. And I just want to say, I had such a profound experience after watching Barbie, specifically after watching the scene that her song is playing behind. And like every woman in the theater was just crying as her song was playing. But I do think there is this competition between women that is kind of just imagined, because it's not that we actually compete for the same man typically. Like that doesn't typically happen in real life. But there is this like competitiveness that underlies a lot of interactions. And I do think that it's a huge reason for the cattiness and meanness between women and girls. And like at a certain point in your life, I think early mid-20s is a great time to cut yourself off from that programming and decide that you're a girl's girl. And I've seen a lot of women my age, younger, older, deciding to become girls. And at least for me, really embracing female friendships and relationships has opened up my life so much. And I feel so feminine now because I'm surrounded by women all the time and I'm embracing things about myself that are feminine. And it's not feminine things that men want me to be. It's like femininity in a way that I want to express it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a really productive role for you to have, because I can totally relate to feeling competitive with other women for literally no reason. We're not competing for the same man. I don't even feel like we're in the same category. Like, let's say, I mean, for me, I think being biracial has kind of compounded things, because I just feel like I look very different compared to like most people, because most people are monoracial. Like most people are black or white, not both. And so when I would like compare myself to like, let's say a black girl or a white girl, I would feel like, especially in middle school, I'm like, is there some competition here? Because I'm trying to, like, I felt like there were just too many points in my life where I try to emulate strictly white beauty standards or strictly black beauty standards, that it was just like so hard for me to fit in. And it just creates this unnecessary, petty, catty thing that's only in my brain. And maybe it's in somebody else's brain, but like I never had an argument. I never had a fight with another girl about how we look or anything like that. It's just purely
in your head. Isn't that crazy?
Purely mental. And you know, if the incels do come, because we said the Voldemort name, let them come. And I just want to say, I'm not even blaming men for this problem. I think it's a societal problem. I think that certain subsets of what we're talking about lean more towards this is from male pressure or this is from female pressure. But this one that we're mentioning right now, I mean, that is strictly internal female pressure that makes zero sense. But that just is what it is. And it's so furthered by people on social media. And then in the Billie Eilish example, it was furthered by her being caught by the paparazzi with a tank top, and the fact that that was like the first time her boobs were publicly showed to the world when she was like 19, I think. This was a few years ago. It just creates this feeling of not feeling woman enough and feeling you have to compete with the woman next to you. And it's so horrible. And especially for Billie, because like I said, we're the same age. I believe we're both 22, or I think she turns 22 in like a month or something. But people were like literally counting down to her 18th birthday because they're creepy. And we saw this happen with every 2000s female pop celebrity. They did it with Aaliyah. They did it with Britney Spears. They did it with the Cash Me Outside girl, Danielle Bergoli. She made an OnlyFans, I believe, like right after her 18th birthday.
And so many
and
people
made millions of dollars. She posted the receipt. She said she made $16 million in 1 month. So we know what happens to 18-year-old girls in the music industry. Yeah. We know why people like Billie and people who may not even be in the public eye, they just feel like they have to cover their bodies to protect themselves from male attention, or to, you know, hide themselves from female competitiveness. And, you know, both sides are super bad and damaging.
It's it's hard. It's really hard to be a woman. And it's not necessarily the patriarchy or whatever. It's just, it is what it is. But like recognizing it, accepting that that's what's happening allows you to step back from it and kind of opt out from these perceived fake things that are going on, especially the, is it intrasexual competition? That's like competition between women and other women, like a lot of it is just fake, guys. It's all in your head. Not to say that you're crazy, although women are higher in neuroticism. I am one of them. Hello. That's why I have a podcast.
Yeah.
But a lot of this stuff is just kind of in our heads, and we have the opportunity and ability to kind of step away from it. I'd also like to point out that a lot of these things that make us feel like we're not woman enough are quintessential parts of the female experience. Like we're all going through it. We're all feeling it. And yet we're all saying, oh, I don't feel like a woman. Then who is defining what being a woman is to us? And why is it that these gender ideologues are pushing so heavily these restrictive gender norms and gender roles on us? Why are they doing that? Being a woman, if you were born a woman, can look like literally anything. Anything you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my opinion.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's so it's comical to me how the gender ideologues who claim to have this really open view on gender and say, you know, clothes don't define your gender, makeup doesn't define your gender. But then when it comes to defining womanhood for somebody who identifies as a trans woman, it's because they have a boob job, they wear dresses, they have makeup, they have wigs. None of that makes you a woman. A woman could be completely flat-chested, have short hair, wear no makeup, wear androgynous or men's clothing, and still be a woman. None of that makes you a woman. It's your biology that makes you a woman. Bring back the tomboys who don't feel like
live.
Let
Stop
lesbians
trying to do conversion therapy on lesbians. Okay,
that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. And as young women, as a young woman who is bisexual, who didn't know that at the time, but as a young woman who had those types of feelings, I would have been so susceptible to somebody telling me I'm like actually a boy. If somebody had told me that, and like, let's say I went to the school counselor, and you know, I went to Montgomery County Public Schools, y'all. This is like, it has like the highest rate of transgender students like in the nation, I'm pretty sure. Oh, no. So 10 years ago when I was in middle school, if I went to the school counselor and said, I feel uncomfortable in my body, I wear boys' clothing, I feel weird when guys say, oh, she or her, because I feel undesirable and I don't really feel super feminine. Dude, if they had told me I was non-binary and I had just heard about that on Tumblr that week,
you would have believed
probably would have believed it. And that's why we see this huge spike of 14-year-old little girls who, you know, whether they're gay, straight, or whatever, if they're just a tomboy, they feel like they're non-binary or men because they just feel uncomfortable in their body.
Yeah, I'm curious that it's happening to so many girls. Wouldn't you think if there's so many girls feeling this way that it is a part of the female experience?
No,
okay?
That means we're all men. We're all men.
Normal.
We're all men.
Oh my gosh. I'm just so upset that we pathologize all of these normal freaking developmental stages and emotions that so many people feel. Like, thank you, Billie Eilish. Thank you for coming out about this and coming out as a woman, okay, who sometimes doesn't feel like she's a woman. Thank you, because we need to normalize this emotion among women. So many women have felt this way. It does not mean that you then have to uproot your entire life, upend all of your relationships and your conception of self, and then like get all of these body modifications to change who you are on the outside. Who you are is perfectly fine.
And
it's
if you're
totally
14
normal.
or 16 or however old and you feel like you need cosmetic surgery to feel better about yourself, like 99.9% of the time, the answer is that's not going to help you. That's not going to be the end of your problems. Yeah. It's really not, because you're going to find something else to pick on, or somebody's not going to like the results, or you're going to feel even worse about yourself because your brain chemistry actually is very female and your body is supposed to match that. And so when you mess with that without actually having gender dysphoria and you just feel uncomfortable in your body, I think you'd even feel worse.
Yeah,
I think you'd
y'all
even
gotta
feel
read
worse.
up from the detransitioners. Look at their stories.
Yes, look at Chloe Cole, who felt uncomfortable in her body and went, and at the age of 15 got her breast removed, and now she's, you know, feels uncomfortable having her breast removed because she's a female. And it's so sad. And I think I wanted to kind of circle back to this being a normal female, especially female puberty experience, because the flip side that we saw, I think starting about 10 years before, and maybe even before this, but with men, with boys specifically, they get really energetic. When they get to elementary school, once they hit like 10 years old, they might be disruptive in class, talkative, roughhousing, too rowdy. They get characterized as bullies and too energetic. Oh, they have ADHD. They have attention deficit disorder. They have toxic masculinity. We have to basically feminize them.
Put them on the meds.
Put them on the meds. We did the same thing to boys, and now we're doing the same thing to girls. So just in different forms.
Wow. It's almost as if there's a lot of money to be made from medicalizing normal developmental processes. Wow. That's
Thanks,
crazy.
Big Pharma.
That's
Thanks.
crazy. By the way, you guys, we're considering doing an episode about the opioid epidemic because I've been learning some things that happened in the 90s that are shocking. And it is crazy how much money there is to be made in telling someone they have a medical issue that can only be solved with a pill.
Yep.
That's unbelievable. Olivia, how many times have you been to the doctor and they're like, are you on birth control? Do you need antidepressants?
Yeah, pretty much every time.
Oh,
pretty
they
much
love
every
that
time.
question. They love that question. Do you need a birth control? I can write a script for you.
Pretty
Is
much
that what
every
you
time.
want?
When I got my wisdom teeth taken out, they gave me like some strong opioid, and I took it one time when I went home, and I felt so high and drowsy. I just took like
Girl,
regular aspirin.
I have to get
time.
my wisdom teeth taken out. There is no way.
Don't take it, girl.
I'm not
Don't
letting them
take
put
it.
me under. I'm like local anesthetic all the way. I don't care if it hurts. I'm not doing that to myself. Sorry. No way, Jose.
They put me under and I was fine, but it was like the medicine they pushed on me during recovery that was crazy. It was like just way too strong, and I totally relate to. I even avoid going to the doctor unless it's like an emergency, because every time I go, they try to put me on birth control. They try to give me like the what's it called, like the HPV vaccine.
Yes.
I don't want to do that, and I feel like I have to explain myself, and they make me feel so ashamed of myself when I say I don't want the HPV shot. I mean, if you want to, go ahead, but they just push it on you.
This is why I think every young woman and young man should learn to become more assertive, because I don't care when my doctors try to push stuff on me. I'm like, I refuse. There's no way.
Oh, the last time okay, so let me tell you a funny
there's no
story.
way I'm taking that. Sorry. But
I
I'm
had
not
to get
sorry.
a physical. I had to get a physical for like, I think my freshman year college for wrestling. So I just went to, I didn't have a primary care doctor because I had just stopped seeing my pediatrician because I was like 18. So I went to this random doctor. My mom took me, and she tried to write me a script. I was just there for a physical, like get your height, weight, blood pressure check. That's it. She tried to put me on a prescription for Accutane, like acne medication that I had normal teenager acne. As you can see, guys, I don't have any long-lasting acne scars or any crazy stuff going on in my face. At the time, I had a couple acne scars on my cheeks, which are no longer there. I have makeup on, but they're no longer there. And she tried to write me a script for Accutane. I said no. She said, "Are you sure? We'll clear up all that you got going on there." Like, she made me feel so bad about my skin. And she also tried to get me on the HPV shot and birth control. And I'm like, ma'am, I need you to sign this so I could wrestle, basically.
Yeah.
Please, ma'am.
Stop trying to pump me full of like chemicals, you know.
Yeah.
Some chemicals are necessary. I'm not anti-medication, but a lot
But
of
we can tell when you're selling it. We can tell when you're shilling it onto us.
I can tell. It's the birth control thing. That makes me so mad. It makes me so mad. Like, I'm sorry. I don't need it. Why are you pushing it on me? Like, I don't need it. And it's going to create a whole mess in my body. Oh, that's one last thing we can talk about. We need to stop putting 14-year-olds and 13-year-olds on birth control. That's when a doctor put me on birth control for the first time. I got off a few months later because I was a child and could not be trusted to take something at the same time every day. But why?
That's a big
why do
part
we
of the
do
reason
that?
why they should stop doing that, because children, I mean, unless they have a medical condition, they just shouldn't be taking daily medicine. And so when your medical condition is just painful periods or something, let's try to find, and I begged my mom. I'm so thankful she didn't do this. I begged my mom in high school because my periods were painful to put me on birth control. There's many other ways around it. I'm sure for some people it is necessary to take further medical action. I just don't think that the first course of action should be shutting down your sexual reproductive system. Sorry, I don't think that should be the first course of action. Yeah.
What the heck? Okay. Anyways, that's a great place to wrap it. Olivia, do you have any final thoughts about Billie Eilish, girlhood, any of it?
If there's any girls listening, especially Zoomers who are around our age or younger, I would say it's totally okay to feel that way. And you don't have to change anything about yourself. You'll probably grow out of it. And I know it kind of sounds hypocritical for me to say because I did mention, I even struggle with this feeling sometimes today. But when I struggle with it now, I know that it's in my head. I know it's fake. I know there's no competition with other women. I know that my body is fine. It's feminine. It's feminine because it's female. It's not feminine because I fit into whatever society thinks that female should look like. Like there's no curve. There's no cup size. There's no hair length. There's no nose size. There's no skin texture that makes you female or not. You're female because you're female. Okay. And for the men who are listening, thank you for listening because this episode, I mean, it pertained to maybe how your daughters might feel, your sisters might feel, but it wasn't solely centered on you. So thanks for listening.
Yes,
but also just hear us when I say, I don't agree with Billie's part where she says men don't face body shaming because girls are nice. We may be nice, but
sometimes we're not.
We have our own version of locker room talk and it's bad. And we criticize men for different things. And I say we as in the female gender. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Wow. That really nicely sums it up. Yeah. I agree with you. I was someone who was very tomboyish, did not feel feminine, and now I'm very different. And it's not because anyone else wanted me to be that way. It's just because I went with the flow. And you kind of determine what womanhood means to you, basically. Like you get to decide that. Don't let other people. And thank you, Billie Eilish, for saying I am a woman. I appreciate that. That's very subversive of you in this climate. I really like her. I think she has good perspective on the world. And I don't know if you read this last part of the article, but she was talking about this vegan, like plant-based meal company that she runs. And she says, I'm outspoken in my own way. I really don't like shoving information down people's throats, and nobody wants to be told what to do. I love that. She seems like she has good perspective on the world and her place as a celebrity, which is not to like tell people what to do. So I really like that. I've always thought she was a really good role model in terms of like her presence on stages in her giant clothes and everything shows young girls that they don't have to be, they don't have to look like these other female celebrities who are pressured into showing everything all the time. And that's a whole different issue. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Liberty Anders. I talk about a lot of this kind of stuff. As you're watching this episode, I am in Argentina, so I'm probably tweeting a lot of stuff about Argentina. Someone told me that they don't care about Argentina, and I was like, okay, bye. Like a lot of people think it's really interesting. It's a really cool country. So go follow me there if you want some updates and insights. And yeah, I hope you guys have an amazing week.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Rondeau Olivia, where I tweet about a wide array of things. I do tweet about femininity and gender ideology and sexuality and things like that. So if you're interested in that, follow me. But if you're interested in literally any other topic going on right now, I've probably also said something about that too. So just go follow me for my takes.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Bye, guys. Have a great week.
Bye.